So welcome. It's always a funny kind of situation, like when you're talking and you don't really see people's reaction. So I'm super happy that you're here, and you can definitely, put posts like little things in the chat box to tell me your questions and everything like that. So what I'll do is I'll just start telling you the different things that I could cover, and if there's anything specific that you'd like me to talk about, I'd be happy to. So yeah, so my title here is Why Sex and Relationships Show Up in Your Life Like That. I'm sure there's lots to say on that topic. But I was hoping to touch on many different things, such as, the importance. And I say this like, it's so important. If you want to have a healthy and connected and loving relationship, you have to heal both your masculine and your feminine. And that's going to just shift millions of things in your relationship. So that's one of the topics we can go into. Also, this whole thing around giving yourself permission to completely unleash the quirky you. Because that's really when you're going to experience your freedom and your full experience of yourself. I can also go into this whole phenomenon of how we project things into our relationship and why that happens, and what happens when we fully own our projections, and how that actually changes everything. And it changes things not just like in your relationship, but for many things, because you start owning yourself fully, it just allows you to get at new heights in your life. And then a topic I love talking about is how we manage our energy. Because sex is all about energy, money is all about energy, so how that flow happens in us is super important. And we have all these hints at, that we're leaking our energy. So, so we have to start learning to see where we're leaking our energy, because that's one of the places that really shows up in making it very difficult to have a nice sex life, or like having a sex life, or just, in your whole life, whether it be at work or with your relationships, with your friends, wherever you're leaking your energy, it means you're depleting yourself. And that means you can't show up fully, both for yourself and for any kind of, energetic connection that you want to be having. And so, yeah, so if you want to type in your, hey, all these beautiful people, Claire Do, Hasina, it's so awesome to see all you guys. Really happy. So if there's anything in all those things that really sort of, jump out at you and you'd like me to go into that one first, just type it in the little dialogue box. And if I don't see anything, I'll just start talking with the things that really impassion me. So I'll just dive in here with healing the masculine and the feminine. Now, it's always this huge, topic between different people, like all the, dynamics that we're seeing in the news around men and women, and just all the different identities that are sort of coming out and owning themselves more and more in the public. I just want to really put on the table that every single one of us has a masculine and feminine pole, and we adopt all kinds of different memories, or all kinds of different, hey, Matt's back, awesome, nice to see you. All these great people to support me. I was just doing another one. I did another Zoom this morning, and I was just sharing that one of the things I've had to overcome is like showing up for something and being scared that no one would be there. So I had to like overcome that. So I'm so happy that, it's like this great confirmation for me when I see all these wonderful people there. I'm like, hey, show up, Julie, and they'll show up for you. But anyways, so yeah, so I was talking about the healing of the masculine and the feminine. And so we all have that masculine and feminine inside of us, and our natural essence is going to fall somewhere along that spectrum. So you could be someone naturally just really in the masculine pole, you could be someone naturally in the feminine pole, and you might find yourself in between, and that's your natural place. The most important thing that happens is that you have to start knowing that we adopt and we take on so many messaging about the masculine and feminine, and it can like make us it sort of has this impact of either we have a wounded masculine or wounded feminine, or we get ideas about it and we're not allowing ourselves to fully be ourselves. So what I've seen is that, hey there's like Marianne and Clara and James, Patrice. Awesome. So yeah, so the more that you take care of your wounded masculine or your wounded feminine, the more you show up as yourself and you're free in your full freedom. So I'll just give you a quick example. Like if you had a mother that was extremely critical and always putting you down and kind of emasculating you, chances are if you're someone that's interested in women, it's definitely going to be, you'll probably be attracting that kind of model in your life. And then you'll be really upset that this is always happening to you, or that you have a manipulative kind of emotional sort of person that's always like trying to manipulate you. It shows up. If you're someone that attracts the masculine that's wounded, where it's like maybe they always withdraw, you had a father that always withdrew, or you know, that bully energy that can come in, and then it's like, that's what you end up attracting, you know, in your relationships. So until we don't take care of whatever messaging and wounding that we received around the masculine and the feminine, well, guess what? We're just going to play out those scripts over and over again. And we're going to prove ourselves right. Like if we believe this is to be true, we're going to prove that this is what, you know, men do and this is what women do. So yeah, and just like for all the different identities that sort of have different, you know, different models of relationships, the more that people can heal those different parts of themselves. Like if someone always criticized you, or you got these messages about, you know, what it meant to be interested in the same sex as you all your life, and it was this really negative message, it's sure that you're going to have a lot of trouble to accept that that's part of your reality. That's who you are, and that's your essence. And then so the more you heal these different messages and weed out whatever is an adopted belief that doesn't serve you, the more authentic and the more open you're going to be, and the more you can actually receive what is going to be really fulfilling to you. So yeah, so awesome. So there's other people. Oh, even Lilou, it's so exciting. Some of my old students are here. I'm so excited about that. So what else? So as I say, if you have any questions in the dialogue box, you can just put your messages there. If you have any questions, some people sent me their messages beforehand, so to keep it anonymous, but they wanted to be dealt with, so that's really awesome. So I'll just keep on going. This whole thing about projecting is very much linked to this idea of healing the masculine and the feminine. So we project onto our partners many things that actually we need to own. So let's say you feel you're in a situation where you're angry with your partner because whatever reason, and if you dig down deeper, you sort of realize, hey, it's because I'm actually not taking time for myself. I'm not listening to my need of my sacred time. And then I'm always feeling like I have to, like, you know, play the role that that person wants. But really, ultimately, the goal here is to become free, sovereign human beings, where we're fully aware of our capacity of making decisions in our life, of owning ourselves, and really realizing that we're the sovereign in our life. And so whatever we're experiencing is always the consequences of our choices and how we show up. So the more we own our projections, the more it actually just allows you to deactivate all these false things and lets you get to the root of whatever problem really fast. So I just see it's totally like cleaning your inner house. Exactly, Hasina. Like it's, so if you have all kinds of junk in your inner house, well, basically each little piece of junk becomes this magnetic pole. And you're gonna attract, you know, like the rodents and the insects and like all the different things that will like those like sort of garbage, you know? So the more you clean up your house, the more you take care of whatever's there, then you're gonna attract like other types of things. You'll invite people, you'll have people that wanna come over and enjoy yourself in your house. So I just wanna see if there's maybe an example that I could pull out. It's interesting, I just had an earlier Zoom call with a bunch of people, and I'll just give that as an example. So the woman was saying like, oh, but I always feel like I'm projecting on my husband. And so I asked her a little bit of like a few questions, and then it turned out that she's kind of always feeling completely depleted. She's working really hard. Her partner's working really hard. And they're like constantly just like making it like just coming, like, what's the expression? Like they're just surviving in their life, basically. So when we dig like deeper, I was like, well, okay, so what kind of job did you accept? And it turns out that she took a job where she's like doing some homeschooling stuff and getting paid like not a lot of money for the hours that she puts into like doing this. So then I was like, okay, let's go a little bit deeper. So this is just like, let's identify those places where you're leaking your energy, because she's basically putting this massive amount of energy into something and she's getting so little return for it. And so she's feeling drained by the end of the day. So then we looked into it, it's like, why do you keep on accepting these jobs where you're basically not valued and you're not being paid for your work? And then we dug a little bit deeper and it's like, okay, well, there's these major self-worth issues of like feeling like you can just show up in the world in your empowered self and be paid for it and be respected for it. So that's another example of like, okay, we're talking about sex here and relationships, but like, woo, we find ourselves talking about the whole dynamic of where we're leaking energy in other parts of our life. And then we're so depleted that we show up to our partner and it's like, we don't want to have sex, or we don't feel good, or we like get angry with them and we start projecting some stuff. But if we really took ownership, we'd see like, hey, we're the source of the problem. And if we look into like our self-worth problem, then it's like, hey, suddenly if you're starting doing the things that you really love doing, imagine the amount of energy you get from doing the things you love and being paid for it. You have all this like support coming in. So that's one thing that was something around projecting. So, and yeah, so just the whole thing around leaking your energy. So people often, you know, will leak their energy with kind of like things that are in their shadow. They don't really realize it. It could be like a people pleasing thing where basically you can't say no to things and you just want to be loved. So you keep on saying yes and yes and yes, but then it keeps on putting you in more and more difficult situations and you get drained more and more. And that means that it's very impossible to show up. Like, just think of it in this situation. Like, let's say you're this balloon and when you leak your energy, you sort of like let the air out slowly but surely and the balloon like sort of dwindles. Then think about it in terms of like, you know, what would that mean after when you show up in a relationship with someone? It's like, you don't have much to offer. And since sex is this phenomenal exchange of energy, if you come from this very depleted place, the kind of sex you're going to be having is either that you're going to be wanting to take someone's energy to like refurbish your lacking energy, or you're just going to end up depleting yourself even more. So these, like, becoming aware of how we manage our energy is like super, super important. So yeah, so I don't know if there's any other questions that you guys would like me to go deeper into. Just gonna look in the chat box to see if there's any questions here. So yeah, so I'm gonna go into the question that I got via Messenger before I came on here. So I'll just read you out the question. So I was in a relationship with a partner. The relationship could be described as one between an empath and a narcissist. So the person was the empath and the other person was the narcissist. It was a really toxic relationship for me with lots of emotional abuse. And we were together for like a few months and had this awkward period between, let's say, January and May, and to see if we could work things out. But prior to meeting my ex, I would frequently pleasure myself on my own. And this also continued while we were together. Since we've broken up, I've noticed that I don't pleasure myself because I don't feel that urge. When I tune into myself, I feel that part of my sexual energy is shut down. How do I remove the block and reclaim this part of me? So this person that sent me this, I happen to know that this person is someone that's a very integrated person. Like she's someone who lives like not just in her physical body, but she's someone very much in her heart, also in her spiritual essence. And so I was thinking about this a little bit before the call, and what was coming in for me was that someone that that those different layers of being. Like some people, they can just live at the physical level, and whatever situation, they're just like letting, they can sort of pleasure themselves, and that's there's no issues for them. But someone that's becoming more and more integrated, where the heart's important, where feeling your self-esteem is important, where you feel like um, yeah, like even your sort of spiritual essence is important, then if something is kind of wounded, it's hard to get to those places. So I'll just describe this a little bit more. So let's say this person was in a toxic relationship and they became extremely depleted because they kept on, I don't know exactly the situation, but I'll just imagine that they're walking on eggshells, whatever they're doing, they feel maybe manipulated, maybe they're not having proper boundaries. And so there's all kinds of different things happening to them. And so their energy like goes down majorly. And sex and feeling sexual pleasure and light are like, actually, it's actually life forces. That's what we're channeling when we're having sex, is like these amazing life forces. But when we deplete ourselves, it's like the thermometer goes down. It's like that balloon that like dwindles. So if you don't have any energy, you don't have much to work with. And since this person is like a very integrated person, like all these different aspects are important for her well-being and for her to be full of vitality. So the thing is, like, for her to self-pleasure, it feels kind of like, hey, like, I don't really feel like it because I'm a little bit depressed and I'm not feeling really good with myself. So there's not that motivation. And so what I would see is that person would need to go into like really healing the heartbreak that was like all the hurt, all the places where the boundaries weren't respected, reclaim the power, and like start feeling like that energy. Like once you kind of patch up those different holes that we sort of leak our energy out of, like the energy is like, it's like life forces. So it's basically just gonna naturally fill up. It's like let's say there's a dam in a river. So the water is, stuck. Let's say the beaver makes a dam, and then suddenly part of the river gets dried up. So the point is to be able to undo that dam so the water can come back down, and then it just naturally nourishes and is like a natural force that you can always constantly allow yourself to experience. And I'll just give you one amazing experience I just had recently, where I participated in a workshop, and it just blew my mind because it really showed me how accessible these life forces actually are, and how much we're the only person that actually is blocking them from coming in. So we were in this workshop where basically this man had a participant lie in front of him, and he was not touching her. He was just like taking his hands and basically moving the life forces up her body without like a foot over her body. Like, I'm serious. It was not touching. And I was sort of like watching this and thinking, okay, what's going to happen? Like what could happen with all this air being pushed through over this person's body? Sometimes he was pulling out the air through the mouth, and she had her eyes closed. Sometimes he was kind of pumping it over certain points of her body. At one point, the toes of this person just like sort of like curl up, and the back arches, and there's this like jolt of energy that goes through her body. And I couldn't believe it. I was just like, what? That looks like an orgasm. Like, it was like the beginning stages of that orgasm. And then she falls back down. And then again, he continues, and like suddenly like the body's charging and like having these jolts go through the body. And like, he was just this puppet master, like hands like 1 foot over the body. And so what I really saw with that was that, hey, these life forces are always present in our body, and around our body. And he said, like, basically when he started with the woman that he was working with, he said, well, we just are going to remove any expectations. We won't have any expectations. We're just going to be open to whatever happens. Like, it's not going to be like, we have to do this, and your body has to jolt with energy. Like, it's just like, we're going to see what's going to happen, and we'll just leave it to that, right? And and she just had to be open, and basically that energy was like circulating through the body, and suddenly it was like just very, very powerful. And so it just became so clear to me that we are the ones constantly blocking out that life force from our body. So the more that we can get out of the way, and all the things that get in the way are our wounds, are our pain, are our belief systems, all our mind fuckery about all kinds of different things that actually block us from letting that life force move through our body and bring us pleasure. Like, that pleasure and that state of being is always accessible. In fact, like I saw at the end of the workshop, the guy that was the facilitator, he paired us all up, and I even experienced it myself. Like, I was a participant and he managed to do this to me too. But he was able to sit down and just let himself feel it himself. Like, allow him to, I would see him like go through these jolts of his own body, was, because he knew how to access them. So that's really what I'm really passionate about, is helping people remove all these blocks, all these mind fucks, all these wounding that we collect throughout our life, that we collect from our archetypal masculine and feminine, our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters, our communities, and we sort of take on all these things, our culture, our religion, all the stuff that comes in and like sort of like is put on us, and we take it on, but it actually stops us from fully being our own expression, being our own selves. So that's kind of like what I wanted to share with that. I saw these beautiful people joining. I'm so happy. Hi, Julia. Hi, Juliana. Nat. So awesome. So Marianne says, this person is telling my story. So the whole story about toxic relationship is such a common thing. In fact, it's amazing to see how basically, when you're more that open, empathic type person, if you come with your own wounding, you will attract a narcissist, because it's like a magnet, and the empath that doesn't have good boundaries is going to be so open, and the narcissist is so happy to take. It's like they're just going to suck all that good life forces up. And so until the empath learns to make these proper boundaries and respect themselves, like stop the people pleasing, knowing that they have needs. Like I was telling earlier the story on my Zoom call this morning that I grew up in a family where I had a brother that was very much of a bully figure in my life, and he would constantly be putting me down. And in my family system, basically it was like, Julie, just means he loves you. Oh, Julie, like just suck it up, like just ignore him. But the message I was getting constantly was that, well, your needs are not important. Your needs, like he can express his bullyhood as much as he wants, but me, I have to just like endure. So for me, and that set me up for lots of great relationships where I was walking on eggshells and feeling like manipulated or hurt or in different ways, because like I didn't know that I was allowed to have needs and to have boundaries. So when that started shifting and I started putting boundaries up and listening to myself, and it's been like a long process, because it's like learning to listen to like these very subtle things inside of you, like, oh, I'm feeling tired. Maybe I should take some me time, And it's like these new things when you're like, you actually realize that this is important enough to take care of it. But when you've been trained to not do that, it seems like this huge impossible thing, right? Because you're also like, I have to do this for other people. I'm pleasing them. This is what they want of me. So it just creates this crazy dynamic that, again, depletes you slowly but surely. You give away your life forces, and then you're not capable of showing up as the amazing person you actually have. Like when you're blocked and you're not letting that life force go through your body, just imagine like showing up as that little balloon that's like all like, sad and depleted and like sagging, compared to that balloon that's like I'm in the sun, I'm up there in the sky, I'm shining and I'm flying. It's like you just have access to this whole other dimension of like how you can show up in the world, how you can co-create your life, how you can create amazing sex, and like it's just a whole other dimension that you bring in. So I'm seeing some great comments here, so I'm just gonna like go in here. Hi Sky. So how about we are honoring our own sexuality, our own desire, and our own energies? That's clair d'eau. Like really loving ourselves before just thinking sharing it or begging if it from someone else, just to say thanks for your talk. Yeah, that's so true. Like again, like if you're so depleted and you don't have any energy to give and you feel like it's your role to give even when you're depleted, just imagine how it's going to dig your grave, you know? You're just like doing such a disservice to yourself to be giving up those last things that are just keeping you hanging, and you're willing to like give it to someone else, because in sex you're always having this amazing, you know, energy exchange. But the best kind of sexual exchange is when the two people are coming from like these buoyant, full places. If someone's coming from a depleted place and wants the sexual energy from another person, they want that energy hit, they're going to be taking it from the other person. So if they're a dominant type person, they're going to come and just suck you dry from the rest of what you have. So that's why when Claire d'Eau is talking about this whole self-care thing and self-loving thing, it's like it's like primordial. It's the essence and the foundation, because that's when you're doing that self-care, you're allowing that energy to like build up again. You're allowing it to fill up again. You're allowing that balloon to fill up again so that you can show up like in that good place. And so it's like amazing what it means in terms of negotiating that self-care in the world, especially if you've been taught not to. But like the more that you claim your right to taking care of yourself and recognizing your needs and recognizing where the boundaries need to be, then it's like imagine like a balloon that has a hole in it. That's a boundary that's not taken care of. And like when you put a patch on it, it's like then it's possible to be buoyant again. It's like this life forces are always there to be filling you up. So you have to just make sure that your container is solid. Okay, so I'm just gonna go into here. Okay, so Hasina says, oh my God, I was bullied too. You've provided an important gem of my needs are not important. Thank you. Yes, yes, super important. Like people that have been bullied, I remember having a talk with someone where she was sharing to me that she was bullied. And what happens when you're bullied is like, if you just imagine your body having around you like these, like we have our physical body, but we have our emotional body and our mental body and our spiritual body. It's like someone could not be physically hurting you, but they could be like pounding on your emotional body or your psychic body, you know? It's like, and it's like pounds, 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 and like it sort of brings in this huge dent into your energy body. So it's like a boundary that's been pounded in, if you can just imagine that. Now, like what's going to happen with that hole that's been created is just going to invite other people to come pound exactly there. The people who want to pound, they're like, hey, this is an invitation to go and pound some more, you know, until the person that has their boundaries kind of caved in decides to like put some love there and allow that boundary to come back up to its natural place. And again, that creates that kind of container of health for them, because they're like, hey, that person can be a bully all they want, but I've got my boundary now. I don't have to endure this. I can just leave, or I can do something else. I don't have to put myself in situations that are going to be, you know, compromising. So let me just go here. Another one. Okay, yeah, Hasina said that's the piece that I was missing. Awesome. I love it when people have breakthroughs. That's what we're all here about. I'm all about the breakthrough. Marianne says, oh my God, you're so right on. He landed right in front of me, and thank God you said something to me that I didn't want to hear. I cried and cried. Thank you for saving my life that day. I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, Marianne, but maybe you can explain a little bit more. So it's like the whole toxic thing, right? So it sort of like helps you just to maybe recontextualize what happened. Yeah, oftentimes when we have something that happened to us, just having that breakthrough of understanding allows you to shift it and realize like, hey, do I want to stay in this script forever and like be scared of having other people that are going to come do the same thing to me? Or am I like able to shift it now and realize like, hey, I'm going to like have something completely different now that's going to show up for myself. And when you really get to the root, it's like there's all these like rooting systems of like maybe like a false belief or a false, or like an, you know, if like you've adopted the false belief that with all this bullying that you're, you know, you're weak and you you're not valuable to society, or you're whatever, because like this person keeps on giving you these messages that you're like terrible and you're ugly and you're whatever, like you're stupid, and and like you can't even like speak up because who knows what kind of thing is going to be thrown at you. Well, if you start realizing like that's the story that happened in the past, and you're able to let go of that, then you're like, okay, well, actually, this is totally not true, that I'm not a worthy person. And you can let go of all those fears, because we live, when we're stuck in our fears, we're just going to attract more of those situations. So you really have to let go of all the fears so you can let something else come in. So cool. So I don't know if there's anything else. I see Jen there. Awesome. So if there's anyone that has any other question, you can think about it. I'll just tell you a little bit about my program that's coming up. So it's starting the Art of Co-Creative Sex in 1 week. And it's a really awesome process because it allows you to have breakthroughs every week for 5 weeks. And then you have also some privates with me where we really dig in. And basically what I discovered about how energy circulates is that, basically when our energy, and that's something I learned from Tibetan Tantra, there's these meditations that you do to sort of actually amplify the energy going through your energy centers in your body. And as you amplify that energy, you get to higher and higher states of bliss and connection and energy kind of like feelings. Like it brings you to these high places. But it's this heightened energy. So basically, if you have different blocks, and let's say in your areas where you hold issues around safety, or if you have issues around things of like your self-esteem, as you have sex and this heightened energy goes through your body, it's just going to wake up all these pain points. And so they come to the surface in your relationships, and you're like, hey, like this was such a great relationship like a week ago. What's going on now? We're going down the downward spiral. And you're like, what the heck is happening? Well, that sexual energy activated your pain points and is like an invitation, like, hey, let's take care of this. So my system that I've developed is that I go through the important energy centers of our body, like where we hold things around security, where we hold things around our self-esteem, our sexuality and creativity, our power centers, our capacity to feel, because we constantly are protecting ourselves and constantly not allowing ourselves to feel deeply because of past wounding. So imagine what happens to your life when you suddenly like open up. It's like you feel at this whole other level. And then the last system that we work on is the throat, being able to really speak your truth, make those boundaries. Because oftentimes we don't speak up because we're scared of all kinds of things. Like we're scared of being abandoned. We're scared of like we have all kinds of things running through our head in terms of our past experiences. Maybe if we, say no to something, they're going to like abandon us and not love us anymore or whatever. Like there's all kinds of things going on. Or maybe when you spoke up in your family, no one ever listened to you, or people humiliated you and said you were stupid. So these things affect our capacity to speak. But interesting enough, it's also like the whole path that your sexual energy goes through. It circulates through your body. So everything that's blocked up in there blocks you from getting to those higher places. So my system is like designed to help you accelerate the healing of all those different places in your body. So while you're healing your sexual energy, you're also allowing yourself to heal everything, other aspect of your life. Because just think about it, if you heal your self-esteem issues that are coming up with your through your sexual energy, just think of like, hey, like if you can show up as this empowered person in other places, life is completely going to be different. Just think of two people doing improv, and one person is like scared shitless, and the other one's like going in there with confidence. And who's going to create the best jokes? Who's going to be the funniest and most engaging? It's the person that goes in with confidence. So the person that's like feeling really small and really like dwindled up, well, they're not living in their fullest capacity. This person has access to this, but they have to undo all of those stories that are holding them back. So so basically what I was going to say was that I was just like saw on the side, like notes, some messages. Always this fascinating thing when you're on a live, like of things coming in and keeping your focus. But yeah, so basically this whole system is designed for you to have breakthroughs week to week, and it's starting next Sunday. And the big deal on the table is that if you come with a partner, you get to have the whole program for the price, like the two of you can get the price for one person. So it would be really wonderful to have you on board and help you, support you get to these amazing, mind-blowing like breakthroughs that allow you then to like welcome into your life this most fabulous and amazing person in your life, or allows you to step on stage and feel like, hey, everyone watching me, like I'm able to hold this space. I don't have to go hide in the corner, or it's like it shows up in all the different places. So yeah, so I'd really it would be really an amazing experience to work in a deeper way with you. So if there's any questions about the program that you'd like to have, you can just put them in the chat box again too. Let me see if there's anything that needs to be. Hi, Arbutus. Asina is there. It's totally like cleaning your inner house. Let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, so I think we covered everything. If there's, I don't think there's any other questions because I don't see anything else coming in. So just want to say how much I love all of you, and super grateful to just share some of my vibrancy and receive yours back.